Hello. Hi. Okay, firstly, good afternoon and welcome to World Travel Market 2017. I think a lot of people are just arriving now, so there'll be some people dripping in as we start, which is fine. Just to quickly introduce what we're talking about today, this is all about fake followers on social media. Predominantly Instagram and YouTube, but I know it's across other platforms, but the speakers we've got today are going to be looking at those two platforms. It's very similar across the other, across blogging and Twitter as well. I wanted to let you know just before we start that we're going to be doing probably 50% of this talk will be a panel. I always think that those are the best ways of getting questions across and finding out what people's real opinions are, maybe without them having everything scripted before in slideshows. So if you have any questions, we're using the Slido app, and I did have instructions down here now, but they've gone, so I'm just going to try and remember them. There's a website, sli.d, there you go, slido.com, and you can log in to that with there's a code, which I think is WTM LDN, and you can put your questions on there. They can come through anonymously, and then they can come up on the screen, and we can ask them to the panel at the end, but we can also take questions from the audience at the end. So if you haven't had a chance to ask one, please do so. You can also go onto the Slido app and kind of, if you see a question that you like, you can give it like a vote so it comes to the top and we can see it. So I want to very quickly introduce the speakers we've got today. So after myself, we'll have Kylie Borden from Daisy Chain Communications, who is going to be talking a little bit more about the brand side of these issues, but also the ways around it and everything along that side. She's got loads to talk about, so I won't take it away from her now. And after Kylie, we have Julie Faulkner, who's a travel blogger and Instagrammer, and sometimes YouTuber at aladyinlondon.com. And then joining them on the panel at the end will be Jordan Simmons, who's a YouTuber from The Life of Jord, who does some fantastic videos that you should all watch. Just before we start, before we get to them, I'm going to quickly introduce who I am. I realized that in doing these seminars for the last 3 years, I get a lot of people coming up at the end and saying, what does Traverse do and who are you? So I'm just going to have 5 minutes to quickly go through that. I'm Michael Ball. So I'm one of the co-founders of Traverse, and Traverse is split into two parts of Traverse, which is Traverse Events and Traverse Connect. Traverse Events they are our events that we run, usually with other brands and influencers collaborating. We have Traverse 17, which was held this year in London, which had 500 attendees. We did it over a whole week, 40 workshops and seminars, networking parties. I think quite a few people here went. Anyway, that's our biggest event. We have Traverse Mingle, which is our pre-WTM party. It's held on the Friday before. My voice is still a little bit questionable from that, but that's what happens when you have gin and tonic in a tap. And then we have Traverse 18 in Rotterdam. This is our follow-up to Traverse 17 in London. It's coming next year. We're again expecting around 500 people. We've got some great speakers lined up already, including Julie, who's going to be coming back. And we have announced that, right, Julie? Yeah. Yeah, it will be very similar again to what we did in London, just with, be updated for the next year. Blog stock, which we haven't done for the last 2 years, but we are very much looking at a way that we can bring that back in some form next year. We have been trying for the last 2 years, but we just get really, really busy. It's our influencer festival. We try and make it like a tiny, tiny version of what Glastonbury does, in terms of taking all the best things from music festivals and making it a little bit more for influencers. And then next year we have some skill-specific retreats, mini conferences, and some new events which we haven't yet been able to announce, but we will be talking about very soon. Traverse Connect we don't want to call it an agency because we work a lot with agencies, but it's more that side of what we do. So we work with brands and destinations and agencies on influencer outreach and marketing campaigns. We do our bespoke events from them, so events that are just for a brand. Outreach campaigns, mini conferences. So we did an event in Menorca last year. We're going to be doing another one next year, at least another one, maybe a few more. But then all the campaigns and events we do are created very individually and personalized. So we don't act like one of the big Instagram networks or YouTuber networks where we just put stuff out to lots of people with the right amount of followers, because we don't rely on just top line numbers, which is going to lead us exactly into what we're talking about today. So As an introduction to what we're talking about today, we thought we'd quickly go through and just explain what fake followers are. I realize that probably 90% of you here are fully aware of this, but I know from when I was going to these seminars a few years ago, I would just be completely lost from the start because nobody did a really basic introduction. So that's what I'm just going to do now. It's one slide, it won't take long. Usually the followers are not actually fake in the way that they are real people in a lot of the times, a lot of real accounts. Bear in mind, a lot of what I'm talking about is Instagram focused. I know a little bit more about that. And if you've got any questions about it from a YouTube specific side, do ask Jordan at the end. But I'm going to keep looking over you to make sure. Just got smaller. And there's also lots of grey areas. So these are some of the examples and some of the grey areas about what we're talking about. So these are some examples of how people get what I would call unorganic acquisition of followers. So as I said, they're not entirely got just through having great content. Using bots or software to grow the following. This is probably the most common one and the one that most people think of when you talk about fake followers. There's lots of websites out there. A lot of them have been shut down now, which is great. A lot of them still haven't been. You can basically sign up, you give them access to your accounts, and they go through and they do a load of following and unfollowing of accounts to try and make you come up on their feed. So they follow you, they leave comments, often very generic and very inappropriate comments based on the hashtags that have been left. I think someone saw an example of this, that someone put a picture up from a funeral and people were going, oh, great shot, looks like you had a lovely time, love your feed. Because they'd used a hashtag which was something like, family moments or something like this. So it's very obvious to spot those a lot of the time. Running regular competitions and often deleting them afterwards. Essentially, there's probably nothing wrong with competitions, but some people do these competitions you may have seen on Instagram where it will be a case of you can win this incredible prize, but there's like 15 different Instagram accounts you have to follow. You have to follow them all, leave a comment on all of them, and then you have to go and follow the main account and then tweet about it or put your own post up. And then as soon as they're done, everyone goes and deletes the post in the first place. Again, yeah, the people who are following it are real, but they're not following you for your content, which is a lot of what we're talking about today. Virtual assistants. A lot of people use virtual assistants, and they don't see it really as being any issue. Now, bear in mind, I'm not telling you what's right or what's wrong, I'm just giving you examples, so it doesn't necessarily mean this is exactly what I think, but a lot of people would say that a VA is very, very similar to a bot in the way that they don't really know your brand. Right? They don't know what you are, what you're talking about. You say that they're an assistant, but you're just paying someone who's in another country where their wages are small to go and leave comments and follow other people and stuff. I'm just trying not to say my opinion is, but yeah, I believe that it's very similar to using bots. Buying followers in bulk. Again, this is, I think, where most of the actual fake followers come from, where they're just computer programs who set these accounts up, and then these people go onto websites like Fiverr.com. They'll be on Facebook, advertising and in other places. And you can just buy a lump of followers. You can say for $10, I want 1,000 followers and 50 comments, and you can probably get it. Don't, but you probably could. Facebook threads, follow for follow. This is where we're getting very much into the grey areas, and I know a lot of people are going to be looking at me thinking they don't agree with it. I said it's an example. Follow for follow threads are usually, very commonly, it's not just on Instagram, it's also for YouTube, it's also for blog posts, blog comments, and it's just a thread. Someone go, right, this is a follow back thread, or this is a comment swap thread. And while, again, they're real people, when people say they use it because it boosts the algorithm, as if they know what the algorithm is, but that's their thinking behind it, it's still, in my opinion, again, sorry, I shouldn't be saying that, it's still what could be construed as lying to your audience about the followers you've got. Because if you're getting comments that are up there, which you've directly asked other people to do, and you've done it in exchange for you doing the same to other people, that is, in a way, a kind of purchase. You're exchanging a service, you're exchanging something with them, which is the same or similar view that some people might have to comment pods. Comment pods are really very similar to that. There's groups of people get together and they'll say when they put a post up and then everyone goes and comments on it really quickly. And again, people say they do it because it's boosting their image, and that the Instagram or potentially YouTube as well will favor the videos that get a certain amount of interaction, or the shots that get a certain amount of interaction in an early time But it doesn't change the fact that that's not happening organically because you put those pictures up. There is also a huge feel of, if you can't beat them, join them. If everyone's doing this, like certainly some of these are less bad than other ones. So I know a lot of people will say, but there's just no way to grow Instagram without it. I'm sure we'll hear otherwise shortly. I just wanted to show this up. When we decided to do this session about 5 or 6 months ago, myself and Paul and Anastasia, we had the idea that we were going to create a fake account. And it was going to be great. We were going to come up with this fake account. We were going to use loads of stock images, and we were just going to buy followers for it. And then we were going to put it into all these Instagram agencies that will send you work based on your follow. Have you advertising a watch or a piece of jewelry or a headband. And so we thought, great, let's do that. So we started setting it up, and then the very next morning, someone said, have you seen this brilliant study that someone's done in America? Which is exactly what we were going to do. So Media Kicks have done this, have done exactly that. So the top is just a quote from them, which is quite interesting, about how much Instagram is worth right now. But what Media Kicks basically did was they set up two fake accounts. One of them was with a real person. They did a one-day modeling shoot in and around Los Angeles. So they got, you can get pretty much any sort of shot you want to get for summer vacation style images if you find the right area. And LA certainly has the city shots, it has the beaches, it has the beautiful people, it has the palm trees and lots of other things as well. And then the other one was entirely done with stock images, which is what we were going to do. They started purchasing around 500, 250 likes and 10 to 50 comments a day. Very quickly, I think it was in about a month and a half, they reached 10,000 followers. And they started applying for these campaigns. Now, at the time of us writing this, I think one account was on about 55, one was on about 60. They've actually stopped doing this a while ago now, when it got to about that level. But the point was the reason they did it was to show how simple it is and how easy it is for brands to get caught out. Now, they signed up to some agencies who I'm not going to use the names of here, but they're the basic ones where you go on and you sign up with your Instagram, you put in your stats, and then they send you, can you advertise this soft drink? Can you post this up? We'll give you this. And they started getting work 3 months after setting up a completely fake account. I do recommend take down the name of their Media Kicks, have a look at the fake account study, read a bit more into it. It's very interesting the way it was done. It was very, very simple. And it was done using tactics that so many Instagrammers use. What I'm going to show you quickly now are a few graphs. So there's a website out there called Social Blade. I don't know if anyone knows it, but Social Blade, well, most people I believe will. Social Blade looks at your history of followers on Instagram. It can do YouTube and stuff as well, but again, for the purpose of the fact that I know a bit more about it, we're looking at Instagram on these. And then it will look back and you'll see some graphs and numbers about where followers came from for the last 2 years. If I accidentally have left anyone's account names on here, I'm going to flick through that slide really quickly, so if I do that, apologies. Okay, I've taken them off on that, which is good. So this is an example of follow, unfollow. We talked about it earlier. So you can see the bottom graph is the total amount of followers. And you see as it goes along, and then you get to October, and you start seeing this. That's an example of someone following loads of people and then pretty much immediately unfollowing lots of those people and doing it for quite a long period of time. They kind of stopped doing it in April 17. You can see the trajectory there. Their follower counts following as well. It's not necessarily right. Now, what I always suggest to a brand or to an Instagram if you're working with someone else. So if you see something on this website that doesn't look right, it doesn't necessarily mean that person's doing anything wrong. The reason I've taken all the account names off is firstly, we're never going to name and shame people. But secondly, that there might be perfectly legitimate reasons for what people are doing. What I would always say is that if somebody is perfectly legit in what they're doing, and even if they say, oh yeah, a few years ago I was doing this tactic, I didn't realize there was an issue with it, I stopped. That's absolutely fine. Lots of people have started doing some things and then haven't really realized in the way they're doing their marketing that it's probably not quite right, especially with social media, which is still relatively new, and Instagram certainly, which is. So what I would say is if you do look at and see this sort of stuff with anyone you want to work with, just ask them. If they've got nothing to hide, they'll tell you. This is just a total followers graph. If you look at right at the start, you go from, I don't know how low it started off at, but considerably below 100,000 followers, up to 210,000. and then completely dropped off. Now, there is absolutely no reason an account would do that if you're growing your following organically. A lot of people who have this sort of look will say, oh, I was featured somewhere. I was featured in the Daily Mail. I was featured on the BBC, National Geographic, BuzzFeed. It still doesn't drop off like that. It tapers off quite steeply, but it does. And then obviously I think they maybe had a little panic in July and bought some more followers quickly. But that's what it looks like to me. Again, ask the person. There might be a reasonable explanation for it that I'm not sure. They may have ported over an account. I don't know. But it's just things to look out for. Again, this is all 3 graphs, so you can see the total uploads, following and followers. And again, you're just looking at the top graph there. You can see there's something that's off about it, off about the way that goes. It doesn't look like a normal curve. Look at their uploads down the bottom. Like that's quite smooth. That's obviously similar amounts. Yeah, and again, in July 2015, they may have been featured in a newspaper, but it doesn't stop that fast. Like, it doesn't. Even on BuzzFeed, even online, when you go viral, it doesn't die off that quickly. This is just something, if someone's followers are going down that quickly, there's a question you have to ask them, especially when their uploads are consistent. And again, it might be a perfectly legitimate answer. It might be a case of, I've changed to doing black and white photography. I've gone from doing beaches to cities. There might be a good reason for it, but you can ask. Especially that it's worth noting that those numbers are not quite as huge as the last graph, which went from 50,000 to 200,000. This is 110 to 106. This I put on there as what the hell is going on with it kind of graph. There's something up. Just, again, ask people. But, yeah, the point of these really are just that if you see something like this, and I would highly recommend when you're going to work with some Instagrammers, it's worth checking out Social Blade, the website. If you see something, just ask people. And I think that is our last one from me. So we're going to be back, I'm going to be back up to help moderate the panel, but you won't be hearing me talk anymore. I want to introduce Kylie Borden up next, who's going to take you through a lot more in-depth of the overview that I just did. A lot more in-depth, and hopefully some from a brand point of view. So thank you. You okay?
Okay, fake it till you make it. That's what they tell you. Be brave, be confident, go out there, fake it till you make it. Not on Instagram, not on social, because when your brands are working with influencers, they want to work with those that have got really engaged audiences. So, the biggest doesn't always mean the best. When working with influencers started about 5-6 years ago, it used to be those with the hugest following was the ones you wanted to work with because that was going to give you the biggest return on investment. Well, since things like Social Blade have come out and you can see that people have been buying followers and what have you, it's now not the case. It's the engagement with their following that is what really, really counts and what's really going to give you the best return on investment for your campaign. Don't panic if the influencers you want to work with aren't the biggest. Just be confident in that the content they create is going to fit with what you're trying to achieve. So before you research into the Instagrammers, content creators you want to work with as a brand, think about what your campaign is going to do. What is the end goal? What's it ultimately for? Why are you doing it? Who's it for? When's it going out? What's the point? Because again, if you've only got a certain amount of budget, you have to really think into what you want to achieve with this campaign. So what are you trying to achieve? Do you want to increase your own brand social following? Do you want to reach a new audience? Are you trying to increase traffic to your website, e-newsletter sign-ups, bookings? Whatever it is, you really have to define what that campaign goal is. Why are you doing it? Does it fit into what your PR and marketing and sales plan is? Is it the right thing to do for your brand? Who are you trying to reach? Do you want to reach a completely new audience? Have you got a completely new product that you're launching? Are you a city destination that's just suddenly brought together all these amazing cycling trails and you want to reach those hardcore cyclists and get them out from the city? Are you a beach destination but you've just launched something that's looking into local culture? Think about what it is you're trying to sell and who you're trying to reach and when. Make sure the campaign that you're putting forward fits into your marketing plan and also when it's going to give you the biggest impact. January, February time is in travel, we know is the biggest booking time for holidays. So is it something you want to land when people are thinking, oh, what am I going to book for this next year? Think about when it's going to happen. And then research. Don't pick bloggers and content creators just on the fact that one of your rival brands might have worked with them before or somebody else has worked with them before. Do your own research. Really look into who you're looking for. And if you're aiming your campaign at somebody like yourself, look at the Instagrammers and content creators that you really like. Who outside of travel and who is really kind of you're engaging with. Use, as Michael says, use tools like Social Blade just to check that those that you want to work with have got those smooth graphs. And if they've got sudden engagement spikes, find out why. It could be that they've been featured somewhere. It could be like over the weekend, loads of lifestyle bloggers were recently featured by Zoella. They're going to have a massive spike because her following is enormous. So just go back and find out if you've got 5 or 6 people, you're like, right, these are the right people for my campaign. Look at their numbers. Use your own gut instinct. Look at who they themselves are following. If they're using comment and follow bots, you're going to find in the people that they follow, people like Hotman24. Is that the right person you're trying to reach? Just have a look at what they are following and who they are engaging with. Because chances are if they have got bots on their channels and they're using them, it's not going to be those that you want to reach. And does their content fit with your brand, what you're trying to achieve? Are they multi-channel? Are they producing amazing videos? Are you able to work with them and know that the content they produce you can share on your own channels? Is it going to fit? And on the flip side, if you're an influencer and don't work with a brand just because they've said they're going to pay you. If you talk about beaches and stuff and beaches are your thing, don't work with a city break destination just because they've said, right, here's $5,000, let's do a campaign. Make sure that what you're doing is authentic to your audience, because chances are the audience is following you because you are producing those amazing beach shots. I don't care if you pop into a city occasionally. Think about what it is you're trying to achieve from a brand side and from your own channel side. Don't fake it. You know, we know the Instagram and YouTube algorithms are a bit mad at the moment. There's no rhyme or reason often for why something does work or why something fails. It's just a case of occasionally it just doesn't work. But don't buy them. Don't buy likes. Don't fake it, because it's pointless. Because it's no good for the brand. It's no good for you as an influencer, because it's false engagement. It's never going to be, you can never really be proud of that campaign knowing that you've bought it. Put some campaign money aside. If you've got budget, put some money aside for an Instagram sponsored post. I was testing them at the weekend. They're not expensive. But also, if you are putting money aside for social ads, make sure you pick out the right region of the world you want to reach. Algeria wasn't my best idea. But, you know, if you've got these budgets for these campaigns, set some aside. It's not huge money. You can 5, 10, 20 quid and you can reach a whole new audience, and it'll be opening you up to a completely different set of followers. And then when you're working in collaboration with a brand, you have a responsibility to that brand. If something is not working for whatever reason, go back and talk to the brand and go, right, what can we do? How can we change this? What should we do? Maybe the brand will come back and say, well, actually, we've got some money for advertising budget. Let's use that and we'll boost it as well, just so that both of you are getting the best you can from this campaign. And it goes without saying, create the best possible content you can. Put time into it, put effort into it. If you are super busy with lots and lots of paid-for campaigns and you take some time out, don't take on that next one when you know you can't deliver the results that you really want to deliver because you're trying to squeeze too much in at once. Think about what is you're trying to achieve on brand and influencer side. And that's it.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming. and hearing us listen to what is one of the hotter topics in social media right now. I always say this when I get started. If you've ever heard me speak before, you'll have heard me say it before, but I always like to say I would be hypocritical talking about social media and telling you not to use it. So please get your laptops, tablets, phones, smart watches, any other devices you have, please feel free to have them out and open and in use. If you'd like to use social media, I am a lady in London. On Twitter and Instagram, and my blog is called A Lady in London. Pretty much everywhere you can find me, that's who I am. Traverse, our lovely sponsor for this event, is Traverse Events, and WTM is WTM_London. Again, please feel free to use those if you'd like to. If you don't want to, that's absolutely fine as well. Just so you know who's up here in front of you for the next 15 minutes or so, my name is Julie Falconer, and in case you haven't guessed by my accent, I am from San Francisco originally. I started my career in banking, and surprise, surprise, I didn't like it very much. So in 2007, I quit my job at a hedge fund, I got a visa, I moved to London with no job and no plan, and right before I moved, I started a blog called A Lady in London. And back then, all blogs could really be were hobbies, and so I had my blog as a hobby. I wrote about London, I wrote about travel all over the world, still do. And 2 years later, my blog had gotten quite a following, and blogging was becoming something that you could actually monetize. So in the beginning of 2010, I quit my day job, and I started running A Lady in London full-time. So it's been my full-time job for almost 8 years now. And in doing that, I have done a lot with social media. I've done a lot with all of the social media platforms, starting back in 2007 when Twitter was brand new and Facebook, you could only really have a personal profile, all the way up to today where we have so many different platforms available to us and ways that we can engage with our audiences on them. So hopefully that gives me some credibility to be talking to you about social media today. I also, for the last 5 years, have done a lot of speaking and lecturing and teaching about blogging and digital marketing here in London and around the world. So hopefully those two things combined to give me some credibility to be talking about this in front of you today. When I was first approached to give a talk about this subject, I was a bit nervous because this is a difficult subject to talk about. People often find this to be a very negative subject, and I can personally relate to that. I have never bought followers. I've never used bots. I never would. I think it's awful, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room feel that way. I'm sure some people in this room have bought followers and have used bots and are uncomfortable with the topic maybe in a different way. I personally remember back in the day, 8 years ago or so, staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning just to participate in Twitter chats in different time zones to get followers across the board who weren't necessarily people I would engage with in my time zone all the time. I remember when Instagram launched, spending hours and hours and hours finding people to follow, researching hashtags, producing content, engaging with other people's content. And I've worked very, very hard to get where I am today, and I'm proud of that. And it really is disappointing to me when I see brands working with people that I know have bought followers and cut corners and taken the easy way out. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way as well. And so it's a difficult topic. I think what I want to do, though, today is not give you a really negative, downcast presentation, because that's not my style, and I don't want everybody here to leave feeling a little bit worse about life. So I'm going to try in the next 10, 15 minutes to maybe not so much couch this in a positive light, because I'm not sure we can do that entirely, but at least to approach this subject constructively. And I hope that I will achieve that for us. I think one of the reasons that this is a difficult subject is because building a following is difficult. And it is time-consuming, especially from zero. I'm probably not the only one that remembers the first time I started a social media account or any of my accounts, seeing that 000, 0 posts, 0 followers, and 0 following. That is a very intimidating thing to see, and it's a big mountain to climb. And it's relatable. We've all been there. And I think that that especially was true for me in 2012 because I was very late to the influencer party on Instagram. I had an Android phone and Instagram was not available on Android until 2012, if anyone else remembers. And I remember starting an Instagram account in 2012 thinking, oh my gosh, everyone already has thousands of followers on Instagram and I'm at 0. How in the world am I going to do this? And I worked hard and I got my Facebook fans to follow me and my Twitter fans and I told my blog followers to follow me on Instagram. And like I said, I spent all the hours doing all the things you're supposed to do and I built up a following of about 10,000 followers. And then in 2015, Instagram put me on their suggested users list and I got 50,000 followers in 2 weeks. And that felt really good. It felt very good to be rewarded for hard work. And after those 2 weeks, I've since built the following up from 62,000 to 122,000. And that's been, again, just good old-fashioned blood, sweat, and tears. And I think that one of the things that comes out of all of this is that it is a time-consuming process. When I teach an Instagram class at The Guardian, and oftentimes at the end of the class, it's a 3-hour class, and at the end of the class, I always get someone raising their hand and saying, Julie, this is all well and good, but how do I do all this stuff without putting in all the time that you say it takes? And I say, that's a great question, and I wish I had an answer for you, but there isn't, unfortunately, a shortcut. This is a matter of you get out what you put in, and you do have to put the time in. But it is worthwhile. And that leads me to my next point, is that there are a lot of benefits to doing it the authentic way. I know it can be tempting to sort of take the easy way out or take a shortcut or say everyone else is doing it, so, keep up with the Joneses. But at the end of the day, having your own real followers, whether you're a brand or whether you're an influencer, that is what is going to help you achieve your marketing goals. And at the end of the day, that's why we're all on Instagram. We're not consumers using it for fun. We are people who are using it to achieve a marketing goal. And guess what? Bots aren't going to buy your products and services. Bots aren't going to read your blog. Fake followers aren't going to do anything but be fake followers. I realize that obviously from some influencer perspective, you could say, yes, but if I buy a bunch of followers, I can get deals where I'm paid. Okay, fine. Short term, maybe. But in the long run, the authenticity is what's going to help us achieve those marketing goals. It's also a matter of thinking about our partners and their real followers. I'm probably not alone on the influencer side of things to have had disappointing experiences working with brands who have bought followers. I worked with one big brand who said, we'll do this partnership. I said, great. They said, we'll share the link to your blog post on our Facebook page. We've got 100,000 followers. I thought, wow, great. And they shared the link to my blog post on their Facebook page, and I got 2 likes and no traffic. And I thought, great, well, you've bought 100,000 Facebook fans. That didn't really help me very much, and it's not going to help you very much in the long term either, because those fake Facebook fans aren't really going to engage with your brand. So we do need to think about it. Obviously, from the brand side, if you're working with influencers who have bought their followers or faked their account, you get what you pay for. If you're paying somebody however much money, or if you're even doing a contra deal, giving them a product or service in exchange for content or coverage, you're obviously going to be very disappointed if you find that those 1 million followers were all robots. So what can we do? I've been tasked with the task of talking about how to spot fakes or how to address this issue. And the number one thing I would say is, first and foremost, get off social media. If you're a brand, the very first thing you should do is educate your boss, educate your team, and educate your organization. One of the biggest things I get people telling me from the brand side is, I'd love to work with smaller influencers or influencers who haven't bought their followers, but my boss just wants to see big numbers. And it's much easier to sell an Instagrammer with 1 million followers to my boss than an Instagrammer with 10,000 followers. Even if the Instagrammer with the larger following has bought them, and I know that, it's just easier. My boss doesn't want to see small numbers. So sit down with your boss. Sit down with your team. Give a lunchtime presentation to your company or your office. Most organizations are pretty friendly to those types of things. And once you've educated the team about it, it's going to be much easier for you to sell them on those smaller influencers who are actually reaching an authentic and engaged following than the bigger influencers who might not be. Once you've done that, you want to go back to social media, and you want to start looking at things that go beyond just the top-level numbers. It's really easy to say, oh, this Instagrammer has 500,000 followers, great, let's just work with them. But you want to dig deeper than that. And the first thing you want to look at is you want to make sure that you're looking at how many likes their posts are getting, or how many engagements, whatever the platform is you're on. Does that dovetail with how many followers they have? You also want to look at each individual post. Look at 5 or 10 of their last posts. How many likes are they getting? If every post is getting the same number of likes, could be a sign they're buying likes. Someone recently followed me. I noticed she had a very big following, and I started looking at her photos. Every single one had 3,000 likes, give or take a few, and she had 0 comments on any of her posts. Pretty clear she's just buying likes on her posts. A natural profile is going to look different. Look at my profile, for example. In the last month, I had one photo that had 7,000 likes. Last week, I put a photo, it got 1,600. I missed the mark on that one. But that's what a natural profile looks like. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Most of the time, you're somewhere in between. You also want to look at the comments. And again, don't just look at how many comments. Read through the comments. Are they all from bots? Does every comment just say thumbs up or nice shot, great pic, love your feed, great gallery? We've all seen those. Or are the comments actually thoughtful? They look like they're from real human beings. I put up one of Chatsworth House, a picture of Chatsworth House yesterday on my Instagram, and I got a couple of people talking about their favorite childhood memories. I had one guy who said, I proposed to my wife there. I was sort of tearing up. These are real people leaving real authentic comments, and it was really nice for me to see. You also want to look at whether the influencer is replying to their comments or replying to responses. Pretty bad sign if they have 100 comments on an Instagram post or a Facebook post or something like that, and they've never replied to anybody. It could be a sign they're using bots and just not even logging into their account, but it's definitely a sign that no matter what they're doing, they're not very engaged with their audience. And so if you're sponsoring a post and hoping that their audience resonates with that, you might not get as much as you hoped for because the influencer isn't really engaging with their audience very much. You also want to look at things like the activity feed. If you look at the activity feed on Instagram, for example, you can see a lot of interesting information about the people you follow and maybe whether or not they might be using bots. If you see they're liking 50,000 photos in an hour, could be a bad sign. So the activity feed is one. You also want to use common sense. Sometimes things just don't quite look right. I've seen lots of accounts where they have photos that are not what I would call high-quality images. They might be blurry or grainy or they're just not very good photos. And I say, that got 10,000 likes. Really, did 10,000 people see that image and think, wowza, I got to hit the like button on this? Could be a sign that that is fake activity going on. You also want to think, especially on platforms like Twitter, where 5 years or so ago, follow-unfollow bot use was fairly rampant with influencers, and unfortunately, a lot of influencers on Twitter just have tons and tons of bot followers because of that. But oftentimes, on Twitter, you can tell very easily because the person has the exact same number of followers as followees. If someone's following 100,000 people and they have 100,000 followers, usually a pretty clear sign of bot use on Twitter. I was gonna tell you all to use Social Blade, but I feel like I'm being repetitive since it's already been talked about. But do use Social Blade. It is a good tool. Again, like Michael and Kylie both said, it's not necessarily an indication of somebody using bots if you see big spikes or things, but it certainly can flag things and you can talk it through with them. You can also ask for stats if you need to feel comfortable. Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, everywhere gives us stats now. Obviously, if someone's faking a following, they might be faking stats too, but it could help you sleep better at night. And lastly, ask someone you trust. I hate to say it, but pretty much every influencer around will know which other influencers are being naughty and buying followers and things like that. So if you have an influencer in mind and you're really not sure and you know someone in common, you could potentially ask them. Obviously, be very sensitive about this and understand that you're asking a sensitive question. But it is something people do talk, and the same thing with the brands and influencers as well. Again, like I said before, not all of these things are indications that somebody is trying to game the system, but they're all things that can help you maybe come to a conclusion about that. I just want to share a couple of things with you now that are a little bit One of them is a little bit more lighthearted. This I loved. It's an Instagram post from someone I follow. She says, "You unfollow me because you're afraid of falling in love with me. I know. Here's to those who follow and unfollow me daily. I see you starting to follow me again every single day, and I'm sure this is what it's all about." So this is just sort of a funny one. She's basically saying, it's obvious. I think a lot of people use bots and buy followers because they think no one's going to notice, but it is obvious. And the worst thing about it is that people will start to block you. I, for one, block accounts on Instagram every single day. I block brands every day, and I block influencers every day. If I see accounts that look like they're faking things, if I see fake comments, I have no time for that. I delete a lot of comments out of my feed as well on Instagram because I don't want that to be an environment where it looks like it's friendly to bot comments. And I know that hurts my engagement stats, but I'd much rather be happy with the type of engagement I'm getting than have my feed full of comments that could be questionable. Another one here, unashamedly obvious how many people use bots to like on their behalf if you look at the Instagram notifications page for people you follow. So again, if you think you're being sneaky or clever, unfortunately, you're probably not. So I just want to wrap up by saying that, yes, this is a difficult topic. It is not easy to do the authentic way of building followers. It is time-consuming, but it is worthwhile. And we're all going to benefit from authenticity because we're going to achieve our business goals that way. And unfortunately, we're all going to lose from inauthentic following and inauthentic followers because on the brand side, your customers aren't going to trust you if they see that you're using bots or if they think you've bought followers. Your partners aren't going to trust you anymore either. And on the influencer side, in the end, as brands get more sophisticated and as they start to detect more patterns of potentially buying followers and things, you will individually see your partnerships dwindling away. And unfortunately, you're also going to hurt the whole industry of influencer marketing because people will stop working with influencers altogether if they feel they've had a bad experience with them. So I hoped this talk provided some clarity. I hope this talk was more constructive than not. And I just want to say that I hope that in the future we see more vetting, we see more education, we see, above all, more of us being social. And I think that's what we really need to think about. At the end of the day, this is still about being social, social media. We get being social in person. I don't see a single robot in here that someone sent on their behalf because it saved them time from coming to WTM. I don't think at any of the networking events in the evenings this week, anyone's going to send a robot on their behalf because they can't be bothered to show up and it's easier that way. We get being social in person. We need to remember that social media started out and still is about being social. It's just through the medium of a screen. And if we're human and we remember that people want to follow people, not robots, I think we're all going to win. It's going to benefit brands, it's going to benefit influencers, and it's going to benefit the partnerships we do together. So thank you very much.
Hi. Thank you so much, Julie and Kylie. Two great talks, and I think everyone can benefit. I always wish I could present like Julie does, walking around all very naturally, but I need to hide behind something. So we're going to go into a bit of a panel now for anything from 15 minutes to half an hour, depending on how many questions we have, how many people want to talk about this. I can see a little bit, so if you do have questions, sorry, I'm saying that because the lights are in my eyes, you maybe can't see that, but if you do have questions and you haven't put them in, just put your hand up and we'll try and get to you. I just thought before we should start, it would be useful for Jordan just to quickly explain to you a little bit about what he does and who he is, because I realize he hasn't really had a proper introduction. And also it's very important to know how much he knows about YouTube. So if you've got questions for that, we can ask him. So if you want to just quickly take it away. Come up here, fancy.
Okay, is this working? No? Yeah, okay. Hi. Oh, fine, it's fine. Hi, I'm Jordan Simons. I'm from The Life of Jord, and it's The Life of Jord across all of social media. It's a little bit of a narcissistic name, but it's basically about my life traveling across the world. I want to present a little bit of a different side of the coin from what we've heard so far, because I think most people that are running an Instagram or a social media at some point may have utilized some of the methods that Michael spoke about at the beginning. Whether or not it is a virtual assistant or the follow-unfollow, or even when you're starting out on Instagram, you have 0 followers, and to get to 100K, that's a very daunting task, so it might feel like you would want to buy 1,000 to begin with to start that snowball effect and make people realize that you are someone worth following. And I'll be completely honest and say that that's what I did at the beginning. And it's completely commendable what Julie did, completely organically, but myself, I didn't come from that. I only started my YouTube channel about 2 years ago, and so I saw lots of people there already that had these giant audiences, and I wanted to be in that realm. And I think that's kind of similar for a lot of people that want to enter the marketplace. They would try and take shortcuts they can see. I think what I've learned since then is it's actually quite damaging because of some of the reasons that were presented, and brands wouldn't want to work with you if they realized that you had a fake following, and if you realized that you're not actually getting the engagement that you promise. So, the problem is that there are still brands that will work with people with fake followings or with people that have bought accounts. There is a massive Instagram account, and it's one of the biggest travel Instagrams in the world that probably most people are following right now. And I won't name any names, but I know that this person started off with 5 Instagram accounts that were all different niches and was just sharing other people's photos, sold 4 of them, put that money into the travel niche specific one, and then started posting their own content to that. And I don't know if that falls into faking it or if that's a good strategy, but that's what someone's done, and now they're one of the most sought after influencers in the world. I'm not sure if that's a really terrible thing, because now they get 100,000 likes on their photos, they post amazing content, brands want to work with them, and it's not really hurting anyone. So that's just a different side to this whole faking argument. The main thing about that is this person who did do that had fantastic content and was always putting out amazing videos and amazing photos, and the reason then people followed them is because they were putting out great content. So I think really, in the end, the main thing to think about is if you're always putting out good content and you're always putting out amazing videos, then that's the main thing. That's really what is most important in the end. Even if you started slightly differently to people that have done it organically, as long as you, I don't know, learn from that and then put out the best you can, that's what's good in the long run. I think for YouTube, it's slightly different because they've been a lot better at policing it before. I think about 4 years ago when I first started a YouTube channel, before I was just starting it in my bedroom, and I did then buy some fake views, and the YouTube channel got shut down completely, and YouTube were very good at that, and I learned the lesson very quickly, so I've never done that since, and I've always just tried to grow organically. I think if Instagram and Facebook and Twitter policed it better, then there'd be less people doing it, but as they don't, people are still going to try and do that, so the most important thing is just to put out good content better than the fake accounts. Little bit of a ramble there, but I'm going to finish there and then move to the panel. So thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Do you know he had absolutely no time to prepare that because I decided I was walking up here that we didn't know anything from Jordan. So, God, it's a lot better than mine that I've had 4 months for. There you go. Okay, so we've got quite a few questions come in. We've had a few emailed and texted into us as well, so I'll try and get to both. What we're going to do is I'll try and pass on the questions to you individually. We're going to try and get through quite a few, and I know we've all been to some of those panels before where, the panelists just spend half an hour agreeing on something and talking about the same stuff. I'm going to try and get through a few more questions. Sorry if that feels that I'm rushing a little bit, but I think we want to get to as many as we can. So we'll start off from a question from Portia Jones, who's asked, what's the best way of demonstrating your engagement with your followers to PRs and brands and showing them that it's more important than just massive numbers? I guess Kylie and Julie would be great to answer with this one because I think it's probably Instagram based.
Do you want me to go?
Go.
I think as an influencer, that is largely where the media kit comes in. And a lot of us have media kits on our blogs. You can download them, or some people say, email me and I'll send it to you. But that's really where you put your stats in and you show a potential partner, this is the average engagement. I put a lot of screenshots of my Instagram posts and the stats that you can see when you log into Instagram to your own account. And having that kind of information there is not only helpful because it's quantitative and it's measurable from a brand perspective, and that's what marketers want to see, but it also shows transparency that you're willing to sort of disclose to the potential advertiser or partner what you're actually doing in terms of engagement stats.
Yeah, I agree. Disclosure is hugely important for us as PRs to see. And if you've had a campaign that's really worked and you found comments from people saying, I booked this trip because you did this amazing video, or you did this amazing Instagram, I've booked a trip on the basis of that. Pick out those really cool comments where people have done something on the basis of your content, because that will make brands and PRs look at it and go, okay, working with them really works because the last campaign they had, it's turned into bookings or visits or whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
Cool. Thank you. Becky, I want to say Angel, but it's got 2 L's, so it might be something slightly different. But Becky has asked, where can you get the follower reports so that she can demonstrate that she doesn't buy followers from my brand, 2 brands. I'm guessing it would be great to just know across all the platforms, because I don't know which one specifically is mentioned. So Twitter, blog, Instagram, and YouTube.
Meaning, where can you find reports?
Yeah, so I think they're more like analytics reports, I'm guessing.
Okay,
so,
yeah, analytics.
Basically, how can you get the quantifiable evidence that shows that you're not buying stuff using the official channels?
I mean, you can show your stats from all your social platforms. They all have analytics. You can screenshot that and send them over. Google Analytics for your blog is good as well. I don't think there's a hard and fast way to prove necessarily you haven't bought followers, but things like Social Blade, if you want to send a screenshot of your Social Blade profile to somebody to show the kind of natural organic curves, or if there's any spikes to explain them, I think you could do that too.
I think traditionally it was easier to tell because you could tell from the follower number to the engagement. But now there's lots of services that will drip feed followers and will drip feed likes, and you could pay for 10K over 6 months, so it looks like it's all coming through naturally. So it's a lot harder for brands to tell that sort of thing now as well.
Okay. So I guess use a few different ways and then try and put it all in a document that you can send to people. Yeah, I think hopefully we'll find some good examples of media kits that we can put online that people can have a look at and see, because I know there's some really great ones out there. I guess, Julie or Kylie, specifically to the hotel business, what's the best way to grow your followers on Instagram?
Don't make it too salesy. Don't just push out sales messages all the time. People don't want to know that you've got an offer on as a hotel. On Instagram, people are there because they want to see amazing pictures of the hotel, the destination. Take them on a journey around your hotel. Don't just go, hey, we've got 20% off, book with us now, because that's an instant way to turn people off. Show them the unique parts. Show them the unique parts of the destination where your hotel is based. Give them something more than just a bedroom, because hotel bedrooms, chances are you've seen one, you've seen them all. So be really creative with the content you're putting out in terms of the imagery.
I would also say, I say this in my classes a lot, is think about what your brand represents to people beyond just what your product actually is. So if you have a hotel, that's great, you can put pictures of the hotel, but also think about what is the lifestyle people want? What are people escaping from maybe when they come to your hotel? Or what's the demographic of your hotel, and what is that demographic generally like lifestyle-wise? And you can mix up your content really creatively, showing pictures that aren't necessarily of your product or of the hotel itself, but are still appealing to the type of person that would want to come to the hotel. And that could be something like the local area, or it could be something just lifestyle-wise that goes into the lifestyle that people want who are engaging with your brand.
Cool. I don't know if you've worked with that many hotels, Jordan, so I was not sure.
I've never grown an Instagram for a hotel.
No. Okay, cool. So we'll skip that. Something I would just say with hotels, one of my earlier jobs was in hotel marketing. Hotel good hotels use the best hotel photographers that there are to make their rooms look incredible. So don't try and compete with that. That would be my advice. You're not going to have a better photo of a room than the Marriott can, well, probably not best example, but there's Savoy. They can get a better photographer to do a hotel room using special angles and cameras and stuff. So I would try and put something more genuine from yourself up when you're looking at that, because that's what people want. That's what Instagram and all the social media platforms are for, I guess, rather than more corporate stuff. Jordan, the question we did have sent in over email before we came out, which is from a brand point of view, what are the kind of specific red flags to look for on YouTubers when you're looking at genuine?
I mean, it's similar to the Instagram thing. You could buy hundreds of thousands of views, but then if there's no likes and comments, then obviously that's a red flag straight away. It's interesting with YouTube now, actually. There was a service that was sent to me recently, so I thought I'd try it out. And they said, we will send your video to loads of marketing places and try and make it viral, and we'll try and get you loads of views. So I thought, okay, I mean, it sounds obviously fake, but I'm interested. Let's see what happens. So they basically got 10K views on it like straight away, which looked completely fake and terrible, and I complained about it. But what they did was they put it into a site that was rewarding people for watching videos by offering prizes. So people would go onto this site and watch loads and loads of videos in a row, and the amount of videos they watched, even if they're not interested in the content, they could earn raffle prizes. And then it's kind of clever, but also it's not real. So I think more and more it's just getting harder to tell. Yeah.
I always have been kind of likening it a little bit to performance-enhancing drugs in sport, in the way that if you look at cycling through the years, something that wasn't illegal 20 years ago is illegal now, and then someone finds a way of not being detected, and then people find a way of detecting it, and then they find a better way of doing it, and it's a constant battle. I mean, even in the last 5 years since we've been doing this with Traverse, we've seen so many different ways of people kind of acquiring fake followers, but also stuff that wasn't considered necessarily to be wrong now is, and such. So I think it's always, I guess if we did this panel in a year, there'd be a lot of different points bringing out. A question specifically on Twitter from Sarah saying she follows nearly 5,000 people on Twitter and keeps hitting 5,001 limit. So she's to unfollow people to follow others. Will this look bad to people checking her history?
I didn't know there was a 5,000 follower limit.
That's news to me as well.
So I'm not sure how to answer that one. And I don't think you can necessarily check someone's history in terms of the graph like Social Blade has for Instagram. So unfortunately, I'm at a loss for that one. Sorry.
I think it's 5,000 within a certain time. Well, I don't know this for a fact. I know that a lot of the platforms have that. You'll hit a cap, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I know on Twitter, I mean, I know people who follow hundreds of thousands of accounts, so I don't think there's a limit, but you might be right. It might be a time.
It's certainly not 5,000, but yeah, I don't know. Sarah, if you want to come up and show us afterwards, I guess it'd be good to have a look.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, I am keeping a lookout to see if anyone's got your hands up, and I will come to you if you do, but if not, we'll stick with these that we have now. I guess this is for all of you. How do you convince the PR decision makers, PR and marketing decision makers, that high follower numbers are not always genuine, and they often care only about numbers? I think you touched on this, and both of you on the talks, but it'd be good to. You got any quick tips for what people would do?
It's difficult because, as Julie says, if your bosses are saying to you, I only care about numbers, they're only going to focus on high numbers unless you sit down and educate them. If you are an influencer with not the highest numbers in the world, but you've got a really unique niche, or they've got, if say it's an agency you're talking to and the PR's got some really cool clients that you could do some really great campaigns with, come up with campaign ideas and talk to them about why actually your influencing and your engagement is much higher than those with millions and millions of followers, and sit down and come up with campaign ideas and talk to them about it. It all has to start from a conversation, because, obviously if you've only got 100 followers, then it's going to be slightly more difficult, but it has to come from a conversation, because otherwise, PRs, agencies, we're all still learning. It's influencer marketing is changing on a daily basis. So you have to, and if you've got an idea, put it forward. Doesn't hurt to try.
I think for me, I'd focus on the quality, because I think a lot of PR brands do look at, or PRs and companies and brands do look at the numbers first, but if you emphasize how much higher quality you have than someone with higher numbers, or your unique angle that you can offer, then that's something you can offer that is much better than the numbers. And that's where I've tried to come from. I'm not the biggest YouTuber in the world, but I pride myself on making high quality videos.
I think from a point of view from being kind of in the middle of the PR brands and what you guys do, there's also some points where you think, screw it, there's no point wasting your time with certain people, because there are so many more PR agencies, more hotel brands, more destinations out there than you guys will ever have time to pitch to. So if there's one person who's saying they only want this and you've tried a couple of times to explain to them why not and they're not going for it, then just move on. They'll fail because of it in the end, and they'll have to come back to you. So yeah, I think sometimes you just have to write something off. We get asked about the money side of it a lot. I did say before, we don't really want to do any questions on the financial side because it's just all just opinion. And so, but just very quickly, do you guys have any way of putting an advertising dollar value or PR value on social posts?
AVE, or advertising value equivalent, is, in my personal opinion, a nonsense value equivalent. It doesn't mean anything. The PRCA are now ousting it as a measurement tool. So if you're still applying this to your campaigns, then it will never work for social. You cannot quantify how much a Instagram post is worth. I've had clients in the past that have come up with their own calculations because they've had to put a monetary value to it, but that only works for their own campaigns. It doesn't work across the board. I'd say if you are trying to apply an advertising PR value to a social campaign, don't do it. You can't apply, there's no point if you're trying to apply traditional media rules to social campaigns. You're not ready to do them. Don't do them. It's pointless. You'll be wasting your money.
Do you guys?
Sorry, I get really cross about that.
I'd be worried if you did. No, what do you think, Julie and Jordan?
In terms of trying to quantify social
Yeah,
value?
like putting a dollar value on an Instagram post.
From a brand putting a dollar value on an Instagram post.
I'm guessing that if you want to say this is how much it's worth, I don't have an answer for it, because I'm with Kylie. I think it's bullshit.
I would say it would be, they're trying to put it into a monthly report saying, right, this we've had this Instagram campaign and this Instagram has done 5 posts and this was worth X. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in the traditional media sense. You need to be looking at the following, the engagement, how far it's gone. Don't try and put monetary value to it. It's pointless. You'll never get the figure you want, and it will never be authentic. And when you send that back to your up the chain to your bosses, they're going to look at it and they're going to expect the next time you do an Instagram campaign or something for it to be bigger or better or the same. And if you've just gone, I think that's Instagram post worth 100 quid, well, next time you might forget that you've said that, and then you're in a right old mess.
Jordan or Julie, any different? No. Yeah, I'll point out as well with the equivalent advertising value, or advertising value equivalent. Pretty sure it was utter crap when it was invented 50 years ago to go into newspapers. It was a way of PRs justifying how much their spend was worth, based on rate card adverts, which no one buys anyway. So I'm very glad people are stopping using it personally. I think show your quality. People can see bookings. People can see the work you're doing and see the engagement, and that should be enough. So. Yeah, but if not, unfortunately, don't go down the route of trying to figure out how many dollars your Instagram post is worth. How much time do you guys actually spend a day on your social media platform to grow your following? And then secondly, do you plan ahead? And if so, do you use tools?
Myself, I actually spend very little time on the social media. I do use Instagram stories, so I update on my Instagram story a lot, but that's really it. I spend a lot of time editing, so I spend like a lot of time a day editing videos because that takes up a lot of time. But actually being on social media and liking and commenting, I'm not that much of a consumer personally. Do I plan ahead? For Instagram posts, yes, because I like to try and plan how the overall gallery looks going to be, which I think is quite important on Instagram now. And yes, I use a tool for that, which is an app that you can use. And there's lots of them you can download, and then you can play around with the order.
I spend tons of time every day on social media, hours probably. Every time I have a free second, I'm on it. And in terms of planning ahead, I do plan ahead every Friday. I spend a few hours planning out my social media for the following week. I use Hootsuite to schedule tweets for the following week. I use Facebook itself to schedule my Facebook posts. And then I just use my diary to schedule what I'm going to do for Instagram, and then I post that live as I go. And I think planning ahead really helps because it gets your head around what you need to do when. It helps you kind of time management-wise. If you have a busy day one day and you can't really think about it, at least you've already planned it ahead. And I think those types of things can be really helpful.
Cool. I'm just aware of the time. I know that every time we finish a session like this, we would say, come up and ask us any questions. So I want to make sure we finish in about just not that long, so that if people have any questions they want to ask any of the four of us directly, you can come and do it without us running into the next session. So we're going to try and do 2 more questions. Julie, you don't have to answer this one if you don't want, but it's come up on the board twice and I don't ignore it. You've got 122, I think I'm guessing this is for you, 122,000 followers, but not many comments. Is this because you were a suggested user in the past, and how many of your followers are inactive? Personally, I don't think you've got a low level of comments.
Yeah, I was going to say, ouch, whoever said that. That's pretty hurtful. I don't think I have very few comments, and I think I do get good engagement. One of the things I did say in my talk, I delete a lot of comments that look fake, so maybe that's perhaps why you think I don't have very many, but yikes.
Yeah, it's important to, when you're looking at the amount of comments people get, don't just hover over it, because the comments include comments that come back from the same person who posted the videos, and the pictures, or sometimes videos. It also includes comments which are completely fake, which a lot of people like Julie and we try as well to do, is to delete them. I've seen genuine feeds of good Instagrammers where probably 50-60% are love this, great gallery, that kind of stuff, which are not real comments. Now the difference is people like Julie and a lot of other people will delete those, some people won't. And again, some people will reply to everyone and try and start a conversation but try and start a conversation, and then every single line in that conversation, like imagine a messenger conversation like on Facebook there, where every single one of those is counted as a comment. So some people have that as well. So it's very important, even when you're looking at those numbers, whoever put that post in question, be good to just go and have a look and have a look at Julie's video and compare it to someone else's, and I bet you'll find that the comments are no lower at all. Question on the algorithm. Again, I don't know much about the algorithm, but how do you beat the Instagram algorithm? I've been growing my followers organically for 3 years, and now the algorithm doesn't show pics to my audience. I guess it would be good to hear from all of you on it. But just a quick personal view is that people treat this algorithm like it's a deity or something, and it's just post good stuff. That's what I think, because we don't know what Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, well, not Twitter, but Instagram and Facebook are doing with their algorithms and the way they're selecting stuff. If people say they do, then they're wrong, unless they work there. But I'm sure there's people who do better with it by trying different things than others, so I'll see if the experts have a better comment than that.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the main thing is to keep consistently posting good content and not to really try and change your style that much depending on how many likes you're getting because of the algorithm. And I would love to know the answer to the question, how do you beat it? Because it's the same sort of thing happened with YouTube at the end of last year. I think views across so many channels just dropped in half overnight, and no one really knows why. But it's just something that happens. We're not in charge of the social media. Your content gets out how the social media decides it does, and all you need to do is just keep putting stuff out there.
Yeah. I think with the algorithm, the best way to look at the Instagram algorithm is the same way we look at the Google algorithm. Don't get discouraged by it, don't fight it, don't get angry about it. Learn how to play by the rules and get rewarded by it. In the same way we do SEO for our websites, do the same kind of process for your Instagram. Take a look at what the algorithm rewards and do more of it. Take a look at what the algorithm doesn't reward and do less of it. And use your data, use your stats, and just keep posting really, really high quality content.
Anything to add, Kylie?
Just keep posting, as Julie and Jordan said, keep posting high quality content. That's what people want to see. If you're just banging out posts because you feel like you should be doing one a day, but they're not the best you can do, don't post. If you don't have time, don't post, because chances are it's not going to be the best, and your followers are not going to engage with it as much because it's not the best you can put out, and they know that.
Okay, cool. So we'll just finish off with one last question. And it's a more brand question, so I guess more for you, Kylie, but I think it'll be good to hear from everyone. So as a brand, how much backstage, like behind the scenes photos should people be showing to their followers? So this is from a brand that do accommodation and activities. So they want to, how much behind the scenes and how much beautiful stuff?
I would utilize Instagram stories for behind the scenes stuff. Really utilize that function and use that to show the personality behind the brand, and then you're not clogging up your Instagram feed with loads and loads of pictures of just random colleagues and stuff, whereas Instagram stories can really give you a personality, and people are watching those and really engaging with those, and then they'll push back to your feed.
Anything to add?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Cool. I know we've got some more questions, guys, but we do have to wrap up there. So thank you so much to Jordan, Julie, and Kylie, who came and talked to him. Thank you so much for sitting through. I know it was quite a long session, but it's a really big topic and we want to cover it all. Do come up and ask us any questions now. We've got about another 15 minutes. And if not, we're back here doing 2 more sessions tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll see most of you throughout the week. So thank you very much. Cheers, guys.